What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode. FGC Behind the Smoke, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Boris was just before we started recording here. Boris was he's in Australia, just so you guys know. He was talking about how wombats have a really hard ass. So, Boris, maybe you can fun fact of the day, just kind of fill our listeners in on that.
Yeah, buddy, they got buns of steel. Like they squat a lot. But no, like Dom and I were just we were talking about obviously MMA and boxing and things like that, jujitsu. And there's like a gym near me here that I want to go to. It's a boxing gym, but I would have to leave like super early in the morning. Like we're talking like 4 a.m. or something. And like wombats here come out at night, right? They walk around. They're kind of stupid creatures. They don't see you coming. And it's very easy to hit them. I almost smoked a wombat the other day, but yeah, oddly enough, they have like super hard asses because they use the ass to like crush any prey that might come into their burrow. So like if you hit their ass as you're driving, it'll like total your car. So it's like the worst animal to be on the road. They're super low to the ground. Like my truck is, it's not really lifted, but it's like you can't really see them that well. And yeah, man, I'm just afraid like if I go to boxing at 4 a.m. one of these days, I'll just smoke one and it'll just destroy my truck. So I don't know. What do you think I should
Well,
do, Damo?
well, that was cool. Well, we hope you guys learned something today. That's the end of this episode, and
Yeah, follow, subscribe.
no. So the topic of today's episode is 3 reasons why you aren't passing your interview.
Yeah, why you suck.
Yeah, yeah. So if say you're on your second or third interview with a department now, and you're still not getting past it, these are probably 3 reasons as to why. Okay, so what do we have for the first reason, Boris?
First reason, no structure to your answers. So, like Adamo said, just real quick, like if you have gone through like 3 or 4 interviews, we see this all the time with our clients. Like people will come to us, be like, "Yeah, I've failed like 3 or 4 interviews." It's like, dude, why didn't you come to us early? Don't be that person who finds out late that they're bad at interviews, or that goes through a bunch of interviews before getting any kind of help with their
Yeah,
interview prep. So if you fail an interview, come to us, or go through all the numerous free resources that are out there, because you don't want to be going through interviews and failing one after the other without knowing why.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, like one of the first things is like we were talking about is just not providing enough context, right? Not having some sort of structure to your story that you're telling.
Yeah.
So, you're rambling on, you're not giving a good conclusion or result to your story. You're not providing enough detail. You're not really painting that picture like we've talked about before, right? You want to be able to paint them a picture of the situation as a whole, right? So if you're not really providing enough context, then they're really not getting that much information out of you, right?
Yeah, and they can only do so much. Like the recruiters want you there, obviously. That's why they invited you to the interview. They want to hire you, they want to get to know you. But if you don't give them a chance to get to know you, or to put anything on that piece of paper that they have in front of them, you're not going to get the points. You're not going to move forward, and you're not getting the job.
Yeah.
Right. So make sure, like Adamo said, don't ramble. Figure out what they're asking about and give them a concise, 3 to 5 minute answer, or whatever time limit is, on the interview. Because if you start rambling, or, they ask you, I think we mentioned this before, is like they ask you for a conflict with a supervisor, but you start rambling off about a conflict with a coworker. Well, now you didn't actually give them an answer. You rambled for 5 minutes and you get no points on it. You just wasted everybody's time.
Yeah, exactly. And you're wasting your own time at that point too, right?
Totally. And now you're going to be flustered, maybe more nervous. You're going to do worse on your next question. And it just kind of snowballs from there, right?
Yeah, that's such a good point. Like if you answer a question and it's not going good at all, and you know that, you're going to start getting in your own head too, and you're going to start answering the rest of the questions poorly as well, right?
Yeah. And then, Adele, what did you mean when you said, just so listeners understand, not giving a result? What, can you
Yeah.
tell us more?
So for example, that question that we just talked about, conflict with a supervisor, right? They don't just want to hear that you had a conflict with someone. They want to hear how you were able to use your communication skills and interpersonal skills to be able to resolve that conflict in a respectful manner, right? So, yeah, okay, you had this conflict with your supervisor, but what was the outcome of it? Right? Were you able to like approach your supervisor in a calm, respectful manner, pull them aside and ask them, you know, maybe why this was happening, say if you didn't understand why, or, what you could possibly do better, moving forward so this doesn't happen again. So,
Yeah.
and I don't know about, I'm sure you run into the same thing, Boris, with clients, but like a lot of people do that where they don't have a result. They'll just tell about, we're just using this conflict question, but this applies to really every question, right? But they'll be like, yeah, so I had this disagreement with my boss. He wanted me to do things a certain way. I was doing it a different way. I thought my way was better, and he got really upset about it, and I just kind of carried on working. It's like, okay, well, you didn't really like solve that issue, right? So if that's your answer, you're definitely going to lose points on that.
Yeah, because most questions that they ask that has some kind of tell us a time context to it is like they want to know how you handled it and how you solved it. Like you are applying for a problem solving position as a firefighter. So how did you solve that problem or what was the outcome? So don't leave that out because that could be the most important part of that answer.
And honestly, a lot of the times it is,
Mhm.
right? It is the most important part of the answer.
Totally. It could be something like, what was the hardest time in your life? And you can just give them a 5 minute sob story. But what they're really looking for there is like, well, how did you overcome that? How do you move on from that? How are you better
Yeah,
from that? You know? So
exactly. How'd you grow from that situation, right?
yeah, so don't cut your answers short. Give them the full story, give them the full picture. Sometimes it may not have, a happy ending. Like, yeah, we still have some issues, but we're working through it, or, we're being respectful. That's fine, but have that conclusion to your story or to your answer.
Yeah, exactly. And
But
then so the second reason is being too rehearsed,
yeah,
right?
dude,
So
I see that a lot, man. Unfortunately, yeah, it's good that you want to practice. It's great that we have people who are so invested in the job that they want the job, and that they, practice their speech and they practice their stories and things like that. But when it's too rehearsed or robotic, it's almost worse than being unprepared.
yeah, because it comes across as like you want to be authentic, right?
Totally. And that's exactly what I tell our clients too, is like, when you come off as rehearsed or robotic, you come off as potentially not genuine because they don't know if you practice that question because that's your story or that's what you think they want to hear. So they're like,
Exactly.
is this person telling the truth?
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
So you want to find that fine line of practicing and knowing yourself, knowing your resume and stuff like that, but not writing out a script for each question, right?
Yeah, because if they ask you why you want to be a firefighter, that should come from the heart and you should have no problem answering that. But if you're answering it from a script, it's like, well, does this person even know off the top of their head why they want to be a firefighter? Because you should.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So yeah, I feel like most of the time it's more detrimental than not being prepared because when you're not prepared, at least they know you're being genuine. You're screwing up and you're screwing up on your own. But when you're robotic, they're like, I don't know if I can trust this person. And trust is obviously a huge part of our job.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So what I do is like I'll tell guys, that sound too robotic, like take a couple of days off, man. Like don't be studying, you're done. Like stop studying, go do something else, go work out, go be with your family. Like
Yeah, exactly. And also like it's good to like write down your stories and stuff like that, but like what I typically like for people to do is just like write down kind of like the highlights that you want to talk about,
Mhm.
and then just remember those highlights, and then talk about it organically, right? Don't have it scripted so you sound robotic.
Yeah, you want some points to come across for sure. If you did something great, obviously in the fire service we're always taught to be modest, but if you know you did something that's great, or it's a big part of that story, like Adamo said, like write it down, have that in mind, and then when you're speaking with the recruiters, make sure that comes out. But yeah, don't be practicing too much. And we even had Chief Doherty here on the podcast a few episodes ago, and he said something similar. He's like, if I just hear you answering the question before I even asked it, I'm like, you're done. you
Yeah,
know, it's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
why?
exactly.
Like you're there to get to know them just as much as they're there to get to know you. Like be genuine, be authentic, and recruiters aren't idiots. They're gonna see right through it, and it could be a reason why you're not getting hired.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so for our third reason, we have, what was it again, Boris?
Bad first impression.
Right, bad first impression. So you guys have heard us say this before, but first impressions are everything, right? A lot of people make their decision on you based on like the first, minute or so that of the interaction that they have with you, right? So, showing up late, not shaking hands, you know, saying inappropriate things, like you cracking jokes and stuff like that when it's not time to crack jokes. That's going to show you're too comfortable, you're not taking it seriously. You know, the recruiters are going to feel like you're wasting their time, right?
Totally. And it is that first impression. Like you could be just nervous, you could be cracking jokes. You could have, got to a car accident on the way and you were late, but they won't care about that stuff. It's going to be that first bad impression. And if you make it, it could break you.
Yeah,
Right. I mean, it's also the reason why, if you guys go back to our very first episode, we did it unedited and we just gave you our authentic selves, because first impression's huge, man. And if you can just show who you really are in that first impression, and if you're good fit for the job and you can show it, then it's going to go a long way.
yeah, and they're going to see that too, right?
Yeah. Same thing with, like, not doing research on the department or the city or the job, or maybe you have done all that research, but if you can't remember it during the interview, or you can't, use it in an answer that's relevant to that question, they're going to have a bad impression of you and think that you didn't study at all, or you don't care about the department, or you don't care about the job.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, you want to be on top of it, right? Like knowing the department, know how many halls they have, know what's significant about that department. We've talked about this before on the podcast, but it is really important to know that because you most likely are going to get the question, what can you tell us about this department, or why do you want to work for this department, or this city, right? So if you're there and you're just like, well, I just want to be a firefighter, and you guys have this many fire halls. It's like, okay, cool. Well, what else, right? So, you know,
Yeah.
you want to make them feel special, right?
Yeah, and every department does have something great about it. So if you can't, it's one thing to know that, but it's another thing to show it. If you can't show it, it's going to give the recruiters a bad first impression.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's not enough that you know this stuff. You have to showcase it because they're meeting you for the first time. And Damo, we've had clients before that we've known for years sometimes, and we know them and we know that they're good people, but the recruiters don't know that.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So they need to showcase that in ways that a stranger will let them into their home, will let them onto their crew, and be part of their firefighting team.
Exactly. Yeah. So, if you're someone who's gone through a couple of interviews and, you're not sure as to why you're not making it through, this is some time for you to have some self-reflection, look back on those interviews and figure out if, those top three reasons might have been one of the reasons why, right?
Totally. And if you got more questions, guys, we're always open. DM us on Instagram, email us. We're happy to help.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and make sure follow us on Instagram. at Firefighters Global. And yeah. Oh, another thing too is we're going to be having some merch coming out. We're going to have some behind the smoke hats. So you'll see an Instagram post about that eventually here. So they're pretty cool too. So if you're interested in a hat, just shoot us a DM.
And some of those proceeds we're sending somewhere. Is that right?
Yeah, we just gotta work that out. We gotta figure that out. We would like to send some of the profits from the hats to a charity of some sort. We were talking about maybe the Burn Fund or something like that, but we'll have to reach out and talk to them.
So we have just created our Patreon program and it's online. We'll put a link in the description of this episode. It's got all our freebies on there. So it's got resume templates, the interview checklist,
The competitive edge checklist.
yeah, competitive edge checklist.
And we're also going to be diving into more in-depth interview episodes and hiring process stuff. And we're going to be posting it on there. It really does help us out because then we're able to pay Francesco for producing this podcast. If it wasn't for him, we'd be hooped.
You guys missed the part where we were just trying to turn this microphone on before this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we wouldn't be anywhere without him. So we'd like to start paying him a lot more.
And it's also going to be a way for us to just upgrade to better audio equipment, better cameras, better lighting, and all that kind of stuff to bring you guys a better experience with this podcast.
Yeah, and that was your idea actually, Dan, with the whole going over every interview question kind of in depth and really getting into the interview panel stuff.
Yeah, we'll be going into that in really great detail, really breaking apart the questions and just talking about like what they're actually asking in these questions, right? And yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be a lot of info, a lot of really, really good info.
And if it's not, let us know. We also have a chat group in there as well on Patreon.
That's right.
So if there's, guests you want us to see, bring on, or if there's questions you want us to ask or talk about on the podcast, you're more than welcome to ask us on there.
Yeah, for sure. And like when it comes to those behavioral / situational type questions, we can break down a question and talk about it for probably half an hour.
Yeah.
Right. Just one question.
Easily.
So there's going to be a lot of really good info on that. And like we said, it's going to really help support the podcast so we can upgrade better equipment and also keep Francesco around so that way there is a podcast.
Like chaining him down to the table would be too cruel.
Yeah. Right on.
So thanks again, guys, for listening. Hopefully that helps you guys out. If you are that person who's listening to this and you've had multiple interviews, please come talk to us or, ask us a question. We're more than happy to help. We hate seeing people go through multiple interviews with no results.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, guys, good luck. And like Boris said, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. And if you want to book a consultation with us, just go to our website and you can book from there.
Thanks, guys.
All right. See ya.